Well, hi there, guys. Welcome to Stalingrad 1942 Gold Edition here. It's a John Tiller software-based game. You can check it out at johntillersoftware.com. This is your host, ID Jester. We're going to be playing through a scenario here in the Panzer campaigns and use all of the stuff that we learned through our tutorials to see how we do. So we're going to be playing this scenario here called Stashta. It happened on the 20th of November 1942. It's size small, and we'll just go ahead and get into it here. We're going to play as the Russians. Axis is automatic, and say OK. And air units are available. We have turn 1 of 7. All right, so we're going to analyze this scenario, and the first thing I'm going to tell you guys right up front is there's no way to actually win this scenario. I don't believe there's a way to win this scenario. And so far, I've looked at several of the different Stalingrad scenarios, and I don't know what they were thinking. But in the John Tiller system, when you're doing mostly, 9 times out of 10, you're just damaging an enemy units and removing men and adding fatigue and not disrupting or destroying the enemy unit, which might be historically accurate. Um, with the John Tiller system, we have 7 turns in snow conditions to get our victory points. Let's look at what we have to do. We need 200 for a minor victory, 250 for a major. There's only 2 victory point locations on this. Way up here to the north, 100 points. Right here is a 50 pointer. So somehow, some way, we need to get, for a minimum victory, a minor victory, we need to get 200, was it? 200 points? 200 points. Uh, and that's not going to really be doable as far as I can see in this scenario and a lot of the scenarios inside of the Panzer campaigns that I've looked at so far. I'm kind of not as familiar with that system as I am Panzer Battles, because Panzer Battles is more my style. But the reason for that is, let's look at the situation here. So we've got these units here. All of our units in the backs are fixed units, which means we can't do anything with them. And on turn 1, the only thing we can do is move up. We can only move up. We're not going to have enough movement points to actually do anything. We can't even move up and then assault because we can only go 1 space, right? If we click on a unit, you can see we can only move 1 space, right? So the only thing we're going to be able to do on the first turn is basically move up, hopefully use some artillery and damage the enemy units, and then on turn 2, hopefully once again damage some enemy units, and then assault some of those frontline positions. So for turns 1 and 2, we're only going to be able to make it in maybe this first box. Can we make through a breakthrough? Can we get anywhere once we start destroying some of these enemies? Not really, because of this layered defense the Romanians have here, where because of zone of controls, if I have a unit, say where this black X is, and I can't move into this space here. Why can't I move in that space? Because I'm adjacent to an enemy unit, and they're spaced out exactly as they should be, because this way they pretty much slow everything down. So let's assume that everything goes perfect and we're able to somehow move up adjacent, keep all of our units in perfect working order. We're able to get perfect artillery shots. All of our headquarters are in perfect command, and we're able to get perfect attacks on the enemy and force them out after 2 turns. Well, again, we only have 7 turns, right? So we've got to then push forward again. So in turns 3 to 4, hopefully we'll be able to make this somewhere up in this second line here. If all goes as planned, our fixed units finally can start coming in, and again, hopefully start pushing forward. And if everything goes perfectly and all the dice gods love us and all of our headquarters stay in command and we get air support and we get all of our units in perfect working order and we are able to damage the enemy and do massive amounts of damage to them and disruptions and everything, possibly we're able to move up here in turns 3 and 4 to maybe get some more pushback. And then, of course, in the next thing, we're going to have turns 5 and 6. again, assuming everything goes exactly as planned. All of our headquarters are in perfect command and control, and we keep all of our units in perfect working order, and none of the enemies damage us. And we were able to do perfect attacks, and somehow they are able to damage the enemy enough to push them back somehow, some way, and then hopefully, where they retreat to and are able to be disrupted, we can move up against them. Again, we only have 7 turns, so how in the heck are we supposed to get 200 victory points out of this? There's 100 points sitting up here, but as the attacker, you normally take a lot more losses. With this layered defense, it's going to be impossible to get through this. So I can see a situation where if you're new to John Tiller games, that you get very mad and frustrated because it's like, I keep playing these scenarios and all I do is get like minus 50 points and I'm supposed to get 1,000. And there's no way to do what they want you to do inside their time frame. I think the problem for me, from looking at, well, I've gone through and looked at just about, I've got 3 new games here. I've got the Kharkov 43, I got the Stalingrad 42, and the Moscow 42. And looking at just a whole bunch of different scenarios, especially the smaller ones, because the smaller ones are usually a lot less turns. It's hard to analyze a scenario and go, oh yeah, this is 87 turns. I should be able to do this in 87 turns or not. But when you're talking like 20 turns or less, you should have a pretty good idea of what you're going up against, especially since we have fog of war turned off. We know exactly what we're up against. So these units in the front line might seem like they should be cakewalks. We can look at our units here. We have 336 men's in this rifle regiment here. Same thing here. We got 336. The men in their trenches, which are getting a 30% bonus, have got actually more men than we have. They have 465 men. Of course, they've got less morale, so they're going to be easier to hopefully damage and cause disruptions to if they have to take a morale check. There are mines out here. We can see there's a mine in that hex. There's a mine in this hex. So, trying to move units up are going to be a little tough. All these units in the back are fixed, as I mentioned. So the only thing we can do is move up, hopefully do some damage, a little bit to them, not take any damage. I played this scenario already and got really mad and frustrated, even though I understand a lot of the system and I understand what's going on. I'm certainly not a super expert. I'm not trying to say I'm an expert, but I should be able to understand enough of what's going on to look at a scenario and be able to figure out a way to beat the scenario. And the issue that I think that comes up is because John Tiller software does a great job of recreating the scenarios historically and putting the units out there historically. And historically, the Russians were able to tie them down pretty tight here. And maybe they made it to this victory point. Maybe they broke through and made it to this victory point. I'm not sure. But when they create these scenarios, they don't really take into consideration the actual John Tiller software game. Where, like I said, 9 times out of 10, all we're doing is taking the enemy's going to be taking men losses and a little bit of fatigue, and it's more of a game of attrition. As you move forward, you're going to be having to use all your different units and make all kinds of attacks on them and hopefully get some disruptions and then do some assaults on them and make them retreat back and then take over their positions. And it's not a game of move up adjacent to do an attack and remove the enemy unit because you've destroyed it. It's not a game like that. It's a game of slow attrition and keeping your units working while the enemy units become worse and worse from battle attrition and battle fatigue and morale loss, and that takes time. It's just not going to happen in 1 turn or 2 turns or 3 turns. So I don't know. I can see how a new player, new to the system, gets mad and frustrated when they load up and go, oh yeah, this looks like a cool scenario. Let me try this one, and they get like minus 50 points, and they're like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to get what 200 victory points, 250 for a major victory? Okay. And they play another scenario and the same thing happens. Another scenario and they play the same thing and they go, well, obviously I don't understand this game. It's stupid. I quit. Um, and I think that's a damn shame because it's a good, fun system and everything. I just think some of the scenarios are way out of line. I don't. I think they create them historically, what had happened with the historical units, but they don't take into consideration. Okay, maybe in one day's turn, the Russians were able to break through the Romanians and get to these victory point locations in whatever 7 turns would be 14 hours. In 14 hours of gameplay, but in the John Tiller system, there is no way in hell you're going to be able to do that. There's no way. I would love to see a replay of someone being able to do this in this amount of time. So I think some of you might be going, hey, why don't you just use this road to the north? If you can destroy this unit right here, you only have this one other unit, and then you can break around him and get this 100 points. Not that bad. But problem is, if we look at this hex here, it's a damaged bridge. We can't actually cross that bridge. And if we remove the units, there's all water here, so we can't actually cross the water either. We don't have an engineer that repairs bridges, and we don't have an engineer that makes bridges either. If we look at our engineer here, it is a mine clearer and a foot unit. It is not, it doesn't have bridge capability, so we have to go through the middle here. The Romanians know this, that's why they have all their defenses here in the middle. They're forcing you. We can't go around to the north. This is water. And this is unplayable terrain up here, so we can't take some of our units around. So we have to go through this little gap between the two rivers. The Romanians know this. They blew up the bridge, so we couldn't cross the bridge here. They're forcing us down the middle, and that's where they have all their defenses. So they're playing smart. They even mined everything as well to keep us from going there. They even put mines around the river. I'm not sure why they did that, but good for them. Yeah, this engineer unit, unless I'm missing an engineer unit somewhere, but I don't even think I am. We have a few artillery units. We have some different vehicles as well. It's T-34 and T-70As. And some more of those coming up, but again, all these units are fixed, so we can't do anything with them. So I can see how, I guess what I'm saying is when we analyze the scenario to see, what the outcome is or whatever, we're playing with Fog of War off. I could imagine playing with Fog of War on is going to be even tougher because you won't know where the enemy units are. But we're going to try it. I know that I played this scenario earlier, and I was only able to make it, I think I got a save game of it. If I go to open, I think it was this one, right? Was it this one? Yeah. So you can see we are in turn 6 of 7, and I have made it to kind of a little breakthrough in the middle here, and I've broken through into the south sector a little bit. Because it's zone of control, though, I can't move this unit forward because it's adjacent to an enemy unit. You can't move from zone of control into zone of control of an enemy unit. This unit's locked down as well, so we have to remove these units. We have to get rid of this unit so that we can do that. So I am on turn 6 of 7. Notice half of my units low ammo, right? Let's see what this guy here. This guy's in low ammo. This guy's disrupted. This guy's disrupted and low ammo. So, I mean, all of our units are not in perfect working order. This guy's disrupted as well. So, assuming that all of our units were not disrupted and in perfect working order and not low in ammo and our headquarters are in perfect working order, you can see up here I've tried to go across this bridge, and when I try to go across this bridge, it says unit cannot move into defending hex because the bridge has been destroyed up there. So, yeah. nothing we can do other than go through the middle. And after 6 turns, I'm able to make it 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces forward. So you tell me how I'm going to make it into up here in 7 turns. Can someone please tell me? You can see victory points. We have a whole 26 victory points. Till we make it to 200, we're going to minus, we're not even going to be at a minor victory. So how we're going to get more than maybe somehow get this by turn 7, but I doubt it. I really don't think there's a way because of zone of control. Maybe push up here and then assault and in turn 7, but then we're still going to be 2 hexes short. But we're going to replay through this, see if there's something I did wrong, and see if we can analyze and figure things out, right? So let's do this. All right. We can give ourselves a huge advantage. Maybe that's one way of doing it. I don't know, but right now I'm just going to leave it there. We're going to leave our artillery rules as default. Hit OK, hit OK. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I meant to actually set the AI on automatic. There we go. So we're back to our default location. So a long-winded kind of intro, but basically I want to tell newer people or people that haven't played John Tiller games or anything in a while that I can understand your frustration with the game because of the actual setup of the scenarios. I don't think are a fair. Let's see, how do I put this? A fair equivalent of what you should be able to do in a certain scenario based upon what had happened historically, which is what I think they're doing. I don't know what their playtesters are doing. Again, I don't know if all of their scenarios are messed up, but I will just give you another example because I was looking through this, trying lots of different scenarios here, and we looked at this scenario here. Again, it's only 8 turns, so I'm thinking, oh, okay, it's small, only 8 turns. Cool, let's check out this scenario, right? And we're actually going to leave them both on automatic. All right, so if we look at this scenario here, okay, well, a few more units and stuff. All right, so what is our goal here? Our goal is to basically the Germans over here cross this river. They have their bridgeheads here, and they're able to get across the river, and so they have 8 turns to get all the way over here. And not only that, but they have to destroy about all the enemy units along the way because they want you to get a total of 1,000 victory points for a minor victory. 1,000. Okay, well, there's 200 in victory points. There's 50, and there's 50, and there's 50, and there's 50. So that's 450 in victory points. And even if you had a chance to get all of these victory points, 450 are in victory points. So the rest you have to make up for in killing the enemy, right? 250, 3, 350, 4, 450. 450 points. So somehow we have to get another, 550 in losses against the enemy that we, more points for the enemy than we take as losses. And I can see, okay, well, first of all, there's a lot of problems with this scenario in that historically what had happened, the Germans came across these bridges, they had their bridgeheads, and they busted through, and they came all the way over here to the Volga in one day, and they crossed these 40 miles of terrain in one day's turn, and were able to create a breachhead over here or whatever. So the scenario is based upon these guys historically, with these units being able to get through all of these guys historically that are set up, and being set up over here on the Volga on the end of the day, and crushing all of the enemies along the way to simulate the 1,000 victory points that you need for a minor victory, or 1,200 for a major victory, right? So I can tell you that I had the computer play this scenario out against itself, and the computer in 8 turns, is only able to make it to this line here. It ended up pushing back a few of these units here, but didn't even capture this objective. Didn't even get to this objective in eight turns. So you tell me how a human player is going to be able to get through this. I think they ended up with, like, victory point wise, I think they ended up with 36 victory points or something like that. So they had more enemy kills than they had themselves, but nowhere near the 1,000 needed, right? Because they have to completely destroy the enemy. I mean, in this scenario, you have to completely destroy the enemy, and you need to get all the victory points. And again, I don't think this one is even remotely possible to be able to do that. And I can see people's frustrations based upon, okay, we're going to set up the historical units with this historical scenario, and this is your historical objective. But when I'm historically shooting an enemy unit, and it takes 2 enemy losses, and it takes no damage, and then it takes 4 enemy losses, and then it takes 2 enemy losses, and you got 226 units, it's going to take me about 80 attacks to actually kill this unit. Maybe I'll get a disruption eventually on it, and hopefully assault it, do 30 to 40 points of, or 30 or 40 men loss on it, and force it back. But that's going to take me several turns. The John Tiller system is not, it's not like a lot of the other systems out there, where if I have, if I zoom in here, like if I'm playing as other counter type games, I could take these 2 units and move them into this hex right here, take these 2 units, put them in this hex right here, and then those 2 units assault these guys. This guy, because of the combat losses, gets eliminated. Then these guys, enter into the hex. Now we've created a breachhead, so these units in the back start following through the hole, and these units over here start coming up to fight these guys, and these guys over here. And then we have the same situation where these guys over here can, these guys come up here, they take care of this guy, and then we got a huge hole in their lines, and we're able to move them up here. That's not the John Tiller system, my friends. That is not the John Tiller system. That is not going to happen. You won't see that happen. The John Tiller system is based upon attrition and wearing the enemy down and causing them to create worse units than they currently have. You can see this guy's got a morale of D, he's got a fatigue of 70. I start bombing him, he takes more damage, then all of a sudden he goes from a D morale to an E morale, and his fatigue goes up from light fatigue into medium fatigue, which lowers his morale even further. And then once that happens, then all of a sudden, that's after several attacks, several artillery attacks that actually get a result, because not every time you will get a result. And hopefully, finally, once that happens, this unit's weak enough where I can bring these units up and assault it, and usually do pretty good amount of damage once it's disrupted. But then this unit will retreat to this hex right here, which means then I've got to once again assault it, break it down, and assaulting costs 2/3 of your movement points. And even if I'm able to assault it, it moves back to this hex over here, which means I'm now stuck here, and that's been 3 turns of me trying to take this out. Now, historically, that might be accurate, because it's very hard to kill 216 men in 1 turn. Okay, let's not get that out. The John Tiller system might be realistic, but it's not realistic based upon the scenarios and the setups, because there's no way for me to get these units from over here all the way across the map and destroy all these units along the way in 8 turns. There's no way that's going to happen. And I can see how people get mad and frustrated with the system, because it's not designed to do that. These units here at 8 turns are going to end up maybe in this kind of location, kind of here in the map, which is, hopefully you crush a bunch of these units. You're able to crush these units up to the north, maybe crush a few of these units, hopefully crush a few of these units, maybe start getting some of these units destroyed, maybe if you're lucky get this victory point. And at the end of the 8 turns, hopefully you're able to get, maybe 100 points out of that, maybe 150 points, maybe, I would think. I don't know. Depends on how much each unit's worth. But there's no way for you to go 8 turns all the way over here. The system, the John Tiller system, is not built that way. It's built for attrition. It's built for damaging the enemy units. It's built for historically, maybe they were able to do that, but that's fine. Then you need to change the system. You need to change it so that when this unit moves up adjacent to this guy, oh, and we assault this hex, we can destroy this unit in one turn. I mean, that's that. If you want me to be able to historically do what you want me to do, that's great. But then you need to change the system. Or you need to keep the way the system is, but make it so that these scenarios are more realistic to what we can actually do in the system. So, all that said, I guess I understand how people's frustrations happen. When we look at, we look back at our scenario here. There's no way for us to complete this. And, this is just a couple of the scenarios that I've looked at. Now, it's hard when you start looking at a scenario that's 27 turns long or anything like that, 30 turns long. Am I going to be able to figure out, this one's 306 turns, am I going to be able to figure out if this scenario is broken or not? Oh yeah, we should be able to do that in 306 turns. No, I mean, the only ones you can really look at are the littler scenarios. Here's an 8-turn scenario. Okay, find out if this one's something that's doable or not doable. 7 turns. Okay, let's look at this one. I think this is the other one. We'll keep them both automatic here. Yeah. All right, so we're going to look at 7 turns here. Victory points, what do we need here? Victory points. 450, so we need to get, if we get all of these objectives up to the front, that's going to be 100, 250, 3, 4, 5, there's 600 victory points up there. We need to get how many of these? 450? 450 for minor, 600 for major. So we have 7 turns to basically break through these lines here and capture all these victory point locations. And hopefully obviously do more damage to the enemy than they do us. Now this one might be doable because all the victory points are actually located up here. But again, if the victory points were not up here and they're way back here, there's no way for us to do that. No way. The John Taylor system's not based upon doing that. This one, I would say in 8 turns, one turn to move up, one turn to start breaking through, another turn, 3. You can see 1. Let's just say every turn you're able to move units up. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you're going to have to put units. You're going to have to put units in travel mode once you create a. Let's say we remove this unit and this unit. We got a hole in their line. Maybe we can put units in travel mode and move them up, get more than 1 space per turn. That would probably be the only way. There are, of course, AT guns here that we have to deal with as well. So maybe, but again, super, super hard. Historically, maybe they were able to do it in, 8 turns to 16 hours. So they basically were able to do that in one day. Anyways, let's go back to our scenario. And, there's an alternate, but I think it doesn't say what's different between the alternate and the regular. I've loaded up the alternate. It looks exactly to me like the original one. Maybe it's adjusted some of their manpower, or is this bridge still damaged? It is. So I don't know what has changed because it doesn't actually say. It doesn't even say in the rule book what's the difference between them. But yeah, I mean, it looks like exactly the same. Let's see if the victory points are the same. Yep, still 200, 250. So I can see, again, I hate to bring all of this stuff up, but I think it's important to actually talk about it because I think if I was new to the system, and I think this is exactly what happened, was when I first started buying John Taylor games, I started looking at them and started playing. I had bought 3 or 4 different ones, and I started playing them, and I'm like, wow, I don't know what I'm doing because I'm just getting my butt kicked left and right. So then started looking at the rules and trying the practice scenarios over and over and over again. Got to understand how things work, played some more of the scenarios, still got my ass kicked and was like, all right, I'm not going to put up with the crappy graphics and not being able to play it. I'll go play something else. Now that John Taylor is updating their games with better graphics, I can now go, okay, well, the graphics are nice and I can deal with these, but if I continue to um, lose scenario after scenario after scenario, I can see how new players get frustrated and go, I'm not. I can go play something else. It's not going to make me mad. I don't see any way for myself how we're going to get 200 victory points. You saw our practice scenario. Let's do it. I guess we'll do it in the next episode. Well, thanks for watching, guys. So let me know what your thoughts, comments, suggestions are, and we'll see you guys in the actual start.